And then the Quran has commentary about how people forgot the entire point for which Allah gave these young men extra life, not just as a favor to them, but as a lesson to the people. People forgot that lesson. Okay, this is the Quran's version. Is this different from the Christian version? Absolutely. Does the Quran version reinforce that they only believed in one God and never associated Isa alayhi salam as the son of Allah? Absolutely. In the very beginning of the surah, before we even get into the story, what does Allah say? وَيُنذِرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ وَلَدًا مَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ وَلَا لِآبَائِهِمْ كَبُرَتْ كَلِمَةً تَخْرُجُ مِنْ أَفْوَاهِهِمْ إِنْ يَقُولُونَ إِلَّا كَذِبًا. These warn, and the Quran came to warn people who say Allah took a son. They have no idea what they're talking about. Nor did their ancestors have any clue what they're talking about. The word that comes out of their mouth, what word? That Allah has a son, is a huge deal. It's not a small crime to Allah. You know, if Allah is making such a big deal out of the fact that somebody says Allah has a son, why would He acknowledge them as people that believed in Jesus as the Son of God? He's actually rewriting the narrative altogether. You guys have the history all wrong. The Christians who've been celebrating this for over a century are being told, you got it wrong. Allah will tell the accurate account. And so, the way I want to wrap up part 1 is this. One ayah, and one ayah alone, that made me appreciate this piece, this part, even though there's so much more detail, I just want you to appreciate this one thing. Allah says, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ نَبَأَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ. Just that one statement. نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ نَبَأَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ. We, in fact, we're going to be the ones to narrate the story to you with truth. Now, this bil-haq means 3 things. The first thing it means is accurately. So Allah is saying, who is going to tell you what really happened? I am. Where are you going to get accurate from? I was the one who was with them. I was the one who was there. I was the one they called on. I was the one who protected them. So who has a right to tell the story accurately? I do. I'm going to have the accurate version, not you. Bil-haq also means purposefully. So another translation of نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ نَبَأَهُمْ بِالْحَقِّ is, we're going to be the ones to tell you the narrative, the story about them with purpose, purposefully. In other words, the people that told the story turned them into saints, which was the exact opposite of the purpose for which they were raised. They were supposed to reinforce your belief in Judgment Day, so you are personally responsible to Allah, and people turned them into saints so they can get all of their problems solved and they don't have to do anything. They don't have to be responsible. They reverse engineered the entire story. They forgot the purpose. And finally, bil-haq also means rightfully. Rightfully. Who has the right to tell the story? Allah is now telling the Christians of that town, of Arabia, you people no longer have a right to this story like I do. These are my slaves. These were my servants. They believed in me. Nobody gets to talk about them the way I do. He's taking ownership of it and handing us, these young men, as heroes of Islam. My final comment on part 1. Think about this. This is really profound. To me, this is incredibly profound. These young men, we would have never known about them. If Allah did not mention them in the Quran, we would never ever have known about these people. Okay? There would have been just some more saints that the Catholics believe in or the Christians believe in. Of the hundreds of saints they already have. We would not have known their names. Allah took these men who would have been erased in the chapters of history for Muslims. Nobody would have known Muslims. You know, there are people who are Muslim somewhere in some remote place and they die and nobody knows that they were Muslim. They're not mentioned in any books. There's no tomb. There's nothing. There's nobody making dua for them. And Allah took these men who would have been erased from the record of history as Muslims, and Allah brought them out and He cleaned up the reputation that was tarnished, and He turned them into heroes for this ummah. The second incredible implication here is that these people were not, these young men were not scholars. They were just young men. The only thing they knew is there's one Allah. That's it. That's all they knew. They don't have exhaustive knowledge of the Bible. They don't know anything about, so much about the deen, no sharia, no nothing. All they know is there is one God and we're not going to worship anybody else. In other words, Allah here is not glorifying knowledge. Instead, He's glorifying integrity. When you believe something, you stand up for it. People who believe in me and are ready to stand up for it, that is what makes them into heroes. Look at the irony. There's going to be people that are going to be studying tafsir for decades. Right? They're going to be ulama of tafsir for decades. And their beards are going to turn white studying Quran. And they're going to be learning about young men who don't know anything. Who don't have ijazah in anything. All they have ijazah in is Allah is one. And that's it. That's all they got. And Allah has glorified them to this point, subhanallah. Turning them into heroes, mentioned in the final word of Allah. How would these young men have known? Sitting in a cave, yo man, what we gonna eat, bro? That what we gonna eat, bro, is gonna be in the final revelation of Allah. Subhanallah. It's a fascinating thing to think about. How Allah honors young people that stand up for their faith in difficult times. So that was part one of what I feel makes this story awesome.